Hi, hi, hi. Listen, today we are going to be talking about how we can actually transform the lives of other people, many other people, and really help to spread kindness and joy and healing and happiness and wholeness in this world by just spreading kindness and doing random acts of kindness. And so I want you to just imagine for a moment that if each and every one of us just spread a little bit of joy, a little bit more peace, a little bit more happiness, a lot more kindness, right? And how we can actually turn that world that we dream of and that we know can exist into our reality, because it really just starts with me and you and me. We can actually spread more love, more joy, more peace, more kindness, more happiness to help to heal the world and make it a better place than what it was when we first got here, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I want to welcome you back to another beautiful, brand new, and blessed day. It's Thankful Thursday, and I always have a daily theme, and we're going to be talking about the spirit of giving because we are in the holiday season, and in this season, this is my absolute, like I am really in my zone during this time of year because I truly, truly, truly love giving back to people. And that spirit of giving, I'm going to share with you where it comes from. And I'm also going to share with you why this video was inspired, right? Why I was inspired to do this video. And we're just going to get into the things that you can actually do to help to make this world a better place. All right. So I want to make sure that the chat is on here so that everybody who does join can come on and say what you got to say, add to the conversation, keep it constructive and positive, please and thank you. And I will be ignoring any trolls who come through here. Okay, this is about, positive vibes. We're talking about healing, happiness, wholeness, and transforming lives just through the acts of kindness. Now, if you watched my live stream yesterday, you would have known that I talked about I was going to be going to Starbucks because I was sharing with you what my favorite drink is. Not the seasonal, Starbucks drinks as far as the lattes and stuff, although I do have a couple of favorites, even though I'm not a coffee drinker. My absolute favorite is a honey citrus mint tea that I get from there all the time. This is my absolute fave, okay? And so I want to make sure I'm going to ignore these comments here that people are so funny. Here we are talking about joy and happiness and healing. And this is the very point that I'm making here as to why it's important that we do this, because so many people, including these trolls who clearly have nothing better to do, they make a job of coming on to people's live streams to be very rude and condescending and saying some of the nastiest, grossest things. But that's just because they're projecting what really they feel about themselves. And I think that's such a sad place to be and such a horrible way to live your life. So it is what it is. And we're going to ignore those people. But I wanted to just make that point because, this is just what they do. I really and truly believe that it must be a job that they apply for, that they get paid to do this. But I digress. So as I was saying, I went to Starbucks. Now, I live in an affluent neighborhood, right? And so you don't see in this particular neighborhood homeless people, really. It's a rare, like a purple moon, where you might see someone who's just out of the blue. You're like, where did they come from? Did they get lost, But I went to get my favorite tea at a different Starbucks because this is how popular it is. They were out at the one that I typically go to near my home. So I kept looking on the app to try and find one that would, that has this tea. And I was determined to find one, but I had to drive a little ways out, which, is still in the suburbs, but it's not as nice of an area as I actually live in. And so I went over there and I remember seeing through my peripheral vision. I was like, what am I seeing? Why am I seeing like a shadow? So I looked to my left, and as I'm waiting at the light, getting ready to pull into the shopping center where the Starbucks is, there's this homeless guy sitting on the what do you call it, the divide right there, like right at the stoplight. There's a divide, and he had a sign. He looked like he was bundled up, but he was shivering as if he was really really cold, and really he looked like he was hungry, lethargic. And I just felt so bad. I know there's like some people, there's mixed feelings about homeless people, because there are some people who's playing you. There's some people who's pretending to be homeless just to get money so they can go spend it on drugs and alcohol or whatever. But I'm not one who's going to be, I know it's likely that a good many of us do place judgment on people, and I used to be that person too. But as you get more mature, as you grow older, you get wiser, you put yourself in people's shoes, you learn more, you evolve, you talk to more people, and life experiences will just change how you feel about things, right? So I obviously at this big old age have a different perspective. And so I wanted to just mention this because this is what prompted me to actually do this live stream today. Because like I said, I am in the spirit of giving this time of year. But when I saw this homeless guy, I just thought, wow. I mean, it's not freezing cold like it is in the Midwest or on the West Coast, or excuse me, on the East Coast this time of year, but it is still cold outside, even here in sunny California. Okay. So it gets pretty chilly here in the area I live in at night and early mornings this time of year. So I felt really bad. I was like, well, hell, I'm on my way to getting a Starbucks drink. I'm going to buy this guy, because the light had changed by then and I had to keep it moving because I had traffic behind me. So I was like, okay, I'm going to circle back. I'm going to go through the Starbucks, drive through, pick up my drink. My mother and I love these drinks. We're going to pick up our drinks, and then I'm going to get an extra drink, maybe some hot chocolate or hot tea for this guy too, because, something just warm and fuzzy. So I went ahead and went over to the Starbucks. And as I was waiting in line, I saw another guy who had on a hoodie, and I saw him have like a bag in his hand, like he'd just come from, like, there's several like restaurants to eat at in the same shopping center. So wherever he had come from, he had a bag in hand with what looked like, like a styrofoam plate, and he was whistling. And so I was looking to see what was going on. He was whistling at the guy who was in the center divide. So I watched him again. I'm still waiting in line in the drive-through, and he runs over and he hands the guy a drink and a plate of food from the Mexican restaurant that was right around the corner, right next door to the Starbucks. And it just warmed my whole entire soul. It really and truly did. And I just was like, wow, that was just such a nice thing to do. So I had to say to this guy, I yelled out my window, oh my gosh, that was such an amazing, nice, beautiful thing to do. And he was like, oh, I try. No, I said, no, you are a blessing to that guy. I was just going to get him a hot beverage, and you already beat me to it. And I'm so thankful that there are still people like you who are out here spreading joy and kindness, because it is the right thing to do. Because if we were in that position, we'd want somebody to do it for us, right? So that was just really nice. So I get this spirit of giving from my mother, who has been one of my most influential people in my life. My upbringing, although we were poor by financial class, we were smothered in the riches of my mother's love. And my mother just has so much love to give everyone interacts with. Anyone who's ever met my mother, anyone who's ever known my mother, anyone who's ever done anything, come in contact and connection with my mother, will tell you firsthand, hands down, like, you have got the best mother, just the best person I've ever met. And I'm not being biased because she's my mom. I'm actually really, I mean, I am 54 years old, and in my entire life, I've met a lot of people. I know a lot of people, and I'm just going to say my mother is truly the most generous, loving, kind, peaceful, joyful, happy, um, loving, caring, giving, sharing person I have ever known in my entire life. And like I said, anyone who comes in contact with her and has the pleasure of knowing her is a blessed person. My mother is literally um, highly favored for sure, and heavily blessed because she blesses so many people. And that's the point I'm making here, is the more that we put out in this world, the more we give, the more we receive. The more we give, the more we receive. We get that back from the universe tenfold, because God is always paying attention to what we do in this lifetime. And so I want to just, encourage you to do more things, more random acts of kindness, more good deeds, more, like there's so many things you can give, and it doesn't even have to be of monetary value. Although if you can afford to do that, do so. For example, I don't even typically carry cash on me. I usually use cards by habit. But this time of year, I make it a point to have cash on hand. So there's actually a Bank of America right here that I'm going to be pulling up to shortly. I actually have an appointment with my financial advisor, and I was just reflecting on how blessed I truly am. And for that reason, for the people who are underserved, right? The people who don't have as much as I do, and perhaps as much as you do. And even when I was someone who didn't have what I have today, I have always given back, because we always have something we can offer. It doesn't cost you anything to pay someone a compliment, to give someone some words of encouragement and some inspiration or words of wisdom. That doesn't cost a thing, right? It doesn't cost you anything but your time to donate items that you might not be using around your household, things that are just cluttering up and taking up space in your house. I always go through every year a decluttering process, and I look for things in my house that I'm not using. It doesn't have any sentimental value to me. It's just there taking up space, and I don't need it. I'm no longer using it, and I will gift those items. I look for clothing specifically to give people, right? And so so I'm going to go to the bank and get some money so that I can keep some cash on me. I'm going to have some ones and some fives and some tens on hand, because you just never know who you might run into. And in the moment, like, you don't know what a blessing you might really be to someone who truly is in a really bad place. And it doesn't mean it's because they're a bad person. It just means that they fell on hard times. I want to share something with you because this is important. This is a key component to what makes me who I am today. And this goes back to my upbringing, thanks to my mother. So, Mommy, if you happen to be watching this, thank you. Thank you for the person you are, because you've made me the person that I am today. So when we were growing up, my sister and I and my mother, we would, this time of year, we would bundle up, especially, because it was, a little cold, a little chilly out. And we would put on our scarves and our gloves and our coats, our sweaters, and, our hats or whatever we had to warm up, our little boots. And my mother, we didn't even have transportation when my mother started this act of giving. And we would take the bus, actually two, because we had to transfer to get downtown, okay? And this is before she got her first car. And so I was young, we were really young. But I remember we would bundle up, we would take loads of, we would take two of the, obviously clean garbage bags, and pile them up with canned goods and boxed foods and bags of rice and beans and, all kinds of foods like that. And then we would also go into, rummage through our closets, and things that my sister and I could no longer fit, we would gift those to the homeless. My mother would go and purchase uh, brand new pairs of socks, bags of socks, and we would go through and find sheets and blankets and things that were just extra. I mean, and we would, buy like when we could, because we didn't have much, but we would like go through our clothes and we would find sweaters. And back in the day, we used to wear leggings and what were those called? Like leg warmers and those kinds of things. Anything that was warm, gloves and mittens and hats and, sweaters and all of that. And we would go downtown and just hand those things out to the homeless around Christmas time. And we would feed the homeless. We would go to homeless shelters. We would go to places like, and I can't say the R word, so I'll just say places where women who were in domestic abuse relationships, and they were in shelters with their children, running away from the abuser, right? They were survivors of abuse, horrific, traumatic experiences. And they were so thankful as they were trying to get back on their feet and live their best life and reinvent themselves and redesign their lives and improve their lives and their children, giving themselves a better chance to have an amazing life, right? And they needed to start over and find work, and they didn't have clothes because they left with the only things that they had, like that they could just grab and go. They had to run out of the situation that they were in with little to nothing at all, right? So a lot of people, my mother would allow us to talk to these people, and we would learn their stories, and they would share openly and candidly and transparently and truthfully with us. And we learned that some of these people were doctors and lawyers, and they had great jobs and great lives. And things happened in their lives that were traumatic experiences, and they lost their way. I remember speaking to a doctor who said that, I forget what kind of doctor he was, but his wife ended up with some sort of rare disease. And he tried for so long to save her and find a cure for her and others who were going through this. And I can't remember what the disease was, so I don't want to, tell a lie, but it was definitely some rare form of this disease. And he could not save her, so she eventually died. And he just felt like he wasn't deserving anymore of being a doctor. So he literally let he let his house go. He let his car go. He let all of this material stuff that no longer mattered to him go. He just let it all go, and he just gave it all up because his wife was everything to him. And his children no longer had a mother, and this was like the love of his life. So, he just stopped caring. And so that's why he was homeless. And, and there were just so many stories like that. Talented people who didn't make it in the music industry or didn't make it in the entertainment industry. And they came, they left a small town, and they took like one suitcase and the $10 or $20 they had left, and they moved all the way to, the state of California, or, to LA or whatever, to try and make something of themselves. And in doing that, they didn't make it, and they lost everything. It's so many, heartfelt stories that people were willing to share with us. And it really put me in a place where, God, my heart was so full, and I understood so much more. And my mother used to always say to my sister and I, never judge a book by its cover, because everyone has an inside story. You never know what people are going through. So you don't want to make fun of them and judge them from what you see on the outside, because your story will change your mind, your perspective, when you see life from their lens. And I understood what she was saying, but I didn't fully get what she meant until we were experiencing these people firsthand and learning more about them and sitting down at the table, having a meal with them, listening to them. We heard their cries. They wanted to improve their lives, many of them. And they, it's just, some people lost their jobs. Some people lost their homes in a fire. Some people, like there were just so many stories. So I say all that to say that when you see people who are homeless, or when you see people who seem helpless, or they have a mental, underlying mental illness, or whatever it might be, all of this comes from it stems from somewhere, right? Whatever they might have experienced in their lives, whatever traumatic experience they might have gone through. So I just don't want us to be so quick as a people to be, so quick to judge, because you never know if that could be you. You never know if that could be your loved one day who goes through something like that, right? Your child, your sibling, your cousin, your one of your parents, anybody. I mean, it could happen to any of us. None of us are exempt, right? Because life doesn't discriminate against any of us, and sometimes we get sucker punched and hit below the belt, and there are unforeseen circumstances that we could not have imagined would happen to us. And when it does, life, the rug of life is pulled from under us, right? And we don't necessarily know what we would do in that situation, especially if we are someone who doesn't have a strong support system, or any support system for that matter, right? And so, or we've never experienced anything like this, or maybe we don't have the resources. Maybe we are undereducated, and we don't even know what resources are available to us. We don't know the right people to go to and the right questions to ask. So you just never know. So just, give people grace, and think about it from that perspective. Like, if this were me, would I really want someone judging me when I'm out here in a position that I don't want to be in and is of no fault of my own necessarily? Do you know what I mean? Especially if you have children. There are people, women, living in their cars with their children, just living on the streets, And so I want to encourage you. And like I said, it doesn't have to be of monetary value. You can donate your time. You can donate clothes. You can give people food. You can buy them a warm drink, right? You can, if you have some furniture that would be helpful, I don't know, maybe a bed. I mean, I'm thinking of sanitary stuff. So maybe not things that would be causing any sort of sanitary issues. And when I was thinking bed, I was thinking like those blow up beds or those air beds or something like that, so they don't have to sleep on the ground. I mean, as long as it's clean and it's sanitized and you've taken care of it and you've, presented it maybe to one of these organizations or places where like it's a shelter, I'm sure that would help. You know what I mean? So just consider that there are people out here hurting, and they need more of us to do more for them, right? They're not in a position necessarily right now to help themselves, so we have to be the ones to pay it forward. And so even to this day, on Thankful Thursdays, even when it's not around the holiday season, I still give back every Thursday. When I was at Starbucks the other day, or last week I think it was, I paid for the 3 cars behind me. I don't know what they ordered, but I just told the lady that I want to pay for whatever the 3 cars behind me ordered. And it makes people's day. Can you imagine if you are one of those 3 cars behind me and I just paid for your order and you don't even know me? You know what I mean? It's just such a nice thing to do, and it lightens up your day. It makes you feel bright and like, wow, somebody just did that for me and they didn't even know me. It makes you change your mind about how you see the world, because you never know what people are going through. Just random people, right? I was in a Target sometime last year, and this lady got to the counter and she had a whole shopping cart full of things. And her cart declined several times, and she was so embarrassed. And she was able to pull out another cart and pay for some of the things in her cart, most of the things in her cart. But there were some very important things that I saw in her cart. It looked like they might have been for children. And she couldn't pay for it. So she said, I'm going to have to leave it here and I'll go, see what's going on, call my bank, go get another card or whatever I got to do, see if I can get cash. And I was like, you know what? Don't even worry about it. I'm going to take care of that for you. And she just cried, boo-hoo cried. She was so grateful. Do you know what I mean? So you've got to just, man, it felt so good. It warms your spirit. I'm telling you, if you just do something, anything, it doesn't have to be as extreme as that if you don't have it. I understand that. I once upon a time didn't have it. So I'm not saying it has to be that like I said, it could just be some of the other things that I named, right? What do you have around your house right now that you're not using? What can you say to someone to make them feel good today? What can you give someone? Um, can you buy someone a plate of food, some lunch, something inexpensive but healthy, hopefully, because we don't want to be giving people just a bunch of junk food, right? We want to encourage people to be healthy as well. And so, and also, can you mentor a child? I do that every year. There's so many places like the Girl Scouts, the Boys and Girls Club, Brothers and Sisters, Destiny's Daughters of Promise, it's so many places I can name that I'm a part of. Can you tutor someone? Can you be an alumni at the college you went to? I also do that. Are you really good at math or some other sort of subject, English, or can you teach English as a second language to somebody? Like, what can you do instead of focusing on what you can't do? What you can't afford, how much you're struggling. Because you'd be surprised, even when you are in a position where you are struggling yourself, you would be surprised if you would just pay it forward to just one person in whatever way you can give, how that will come back to you tenfold. Do you know? So don't count yourself out that, well, I'd like to do this, or I'd like to help this person, or I'd like to do that, and convince yourself that you're not able to. You can in fact give back to someone and do something, somewhere. Somebody needs you. Even if it's just as simple as this. I'm hopping on this live stream right now because I promise that every day I'm going to go live for 21 days at least. I'm going to offer you a daily dose of vitamin D3, right? I talked about what this is and why I'm doing this series and why it's important. And so even if it's just me coming on here, having a conversation with you to give you a different way to think, right? To offer you, to encourage you to do what I'm doing and what others can do to make this world a better place. How can we contribute on a bigger scale to humanity? Because that is what, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, right? Can we teach someone a new skill? Can we educate them in something? Can we show them something how to do? Can we inspire them, or and motivate them to take inspired action? What can we do? Okay, what can we do? And that's what I want your focus to be today. That's what I want to charge you with today, is what it is we actually can do. So I want to, and not only encourage you, but challenge you to help me spread more love, more joy, more peace in this world, because everybody is deserving of that. Even the trolls that are on here and everybody's live stream that they decide to hop on, they clearly are somebody who needs love in their lives, because if they had it, then that's what they'd be given, right? If they were more positive, then they wouldn't be, if they were given more positive vibes and we spread more joy and love to those people, then they wouldn't be on people's live streams or videos just hopping on saying the craziest things, right? So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and I really hope this inspires you. I hope you find this helpful and meaningful. And, I just want to spread more positive vibes throughout this world, because at the end of the day, that we all need is more love, because love is the driver of everything behind what we do. And if that's not it, then it's fear, and fear is not a good place to be, right? We don't want to be a part of, and if we are fearful of something, then we want to use that as fuel. So, but let's lead with love, and let's live in love. Let's laugh more. Let's love deeper. Let's live life to the fullest and in the biggest way possible. And to me, this is how we live our first class lives, is by enriching the lives of others, and other people who we can find some way to just transform their lives in whatever way we're able to. So thank you so much for tuning in live and or watching the replay. I really appreciate you tuning in either way. Do make sure you spread this message today, because inevitably, if it was helpful and beneficial to you, it will be for other people who need to hear it. So please, please, please do spread this message, because that is another way that you can spread kindness and joy and peace and happiness and wholeness, right? And that's what I do in my role as a holistic business coach, is to help people prioritize their health, their healing, and their happiness on their way to securing the bag and sharing their gifts with the world, so that they can feel more fulfilled and like they're doing meaningful, positive work, right? Um, and just staying in a positive space, right? And also living out their purpose and being purposeful. So we have to be intentional about how we show up every day in order to do that, right? In order to not just do things that you're passionate about, but to live in your purpose and to live on purpose. So again, I thank you for tuning in. I'm going to tune out. As always, and until next time, I am wholeheartedly in this journey with you. Bye for now.